Saludos and salutations, Broncos country, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Broncos Talk. Today, Libre and I are going to talk about the upcoming draft. It is what everybody around the world is so excited for. It is going to be tomorrow, April 24th, just one day after today's show. So Libre and I cannot wait to get started and talk to you guys about any and all things coming up for the draft. Who are the Broncos going to pick? Who can they pick? Will they move up? Will they stay put? Will they go backwards? Libre and I will have all that and much, much more, as well as Broncos overtime. So, ladies, please make sure you get ready, get set, because you don't want to miss a single part of today's show. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get ready because here we go.
Broncos talk, let's rock, feel the energy rise. From the microphone to the fans reaching the skies. Every episode a thrill and surprise. For the love of the game, we harmonize.
And welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adan Diaz, and joining me on my left to my right, depending on which way you're watching us, is my co-host, Bronco Libre. Libre, how you doing tonight, brother?
Doing well. Super excited. Can't wait for this episode here. You know, this is the time that we wait for when the Super Bowl ends.
I know you just barely made it. You were a buzzer shot.
Right?
So, but like they say, better late than never, right?
Exactly. All right, let me fix this camera. This is weird.
Yeah, you do sound kind of far away, though.
Do I?
Yeah, so
Let
you
me-
might want to move your mic up a little bit.
What about now?
Oh, that's a whole lot better, brother.
All right.
I swear to you, this was probably the only time, ladies and gentlemen, where Libre and I didn't hang out backstage. And that's usually when we do our camera check, our audio check, and all that stuff. So we were running a little bit late today, so we do apologize for that onset. But hey, stuff happens, you know?
Of course. It's always technical. Something technical is always happening, but you know what? We're here. We're good to go.
Exactly, my friend. So, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time watching us, Libre and I would like to welcome you to our show. If this is not, welcome back. And as always, we got a couple of things we got to get out of the way before we get to the title of today's show, which is Draft Talk here on Broncos Talk, which is a lot of talking. So please get ready for it. Probably maybe more than what we did last week, because I think last week we set a record for longest stream here on the show. So I'll have to have Johnny. I'll have to ask Johnny to look up that, because if it's one thing I like beating Johnny at, it's making history.
There you go. I like it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we'd like to ask you to show your support for us here on the Orange and Blue Network. Please subscribe, share, comment, and like on this show and all the other shows we have for you available on the network. Also, please keep in mind that this is a simulcast, so we're also live streaming on the MHRT network. So we also ask that you please subscribe, share, comment, and like on any and all of their videos. The beautiful thing about being on both of these networks is not just simulcasting at the same time, but being able to have so much content about Broncos, the Denver Broncos at that you can never get enough. You always have your fill. There's always somebody on either one of these networks ready and willing to talk about Broncos with you guys. And right now, during the offseason, that's the most important time, because, hey, who doesn't want to talk about the Broncos, right? Also, for our audio listeners that are listening to us on podcast, please, 5-star ratings are always well appreciated. Send us your screenshots to our Twitter handles. Mine is at the bottom at a 6'10" Mexican. Bronco Libre is at Bronco Libre 5280 on the bottom. Please make sure you send them to us. We would like to personally shout you guys out. Also, please don't forget to watch us on Fridays for the Viva Los Broncos All Spanish podcast with Bronco Libre and myself. And just a heads up, ladies and gentlemen, because of the second day of the draft, Libre and I will not be going live this Friday because there's going to be so much going on and everybody's going to be talking about it. So we're going to take the night off, unfortunately. I know we just took the night off 2 weeks ago, and
Hey, we can do whatever we want to do.
you can blame Libre because it was his idea.
Hey, we blame the draft being in the middle of our show. I have to blame the commissioner on that one.
So please remember that Viva Los Broncos will not be live streamed this Friday. We will return next Friday, May 1st or May 2nd?
May 2nd.
May 2nd. So write that. Please keep a note on that, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are vivid fans of Viva Los Broncos. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank the sponsor of today's show, which is Dubby. Now, you might be asking yourself, what the heck is Dubby? Well, I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, what Dubby is. Dubby is basically something special. They're formulated to give you focus and energy with no jitters or crash. Their formula contains vitamins, amino acids, and nootropics, including the patented neurofactor formula. Basically, it contains no calories, no sugar, no maltodextrin, no fillers, and no artificial colors. Ladies and gentlemen, it's basically all the good stuff without all the bad. I know you're used to having your coffee and your energy drinks like I do every freaking morning for coffee. Energy drink, I have to have a really busy day to be chugging a Monster at 6, 7 in the morning. Need that boost, you know what I'm saying? But for you, ladies and gentlemen, Dubby is here to help you with all that, to give you that energy that you need just to get through the day without having to deal with all that bad stuff that I mentioned earlier. Also, to show you guys that we are awesome here on the Orange and Blue Network, our boss, Johnny Baki, and the guys over at the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast would like to give you guys, our loyal listeners, 10% off when you use the code NRWOB10 at checkout. How awesome is that? NRWOB10 to get your 10% off at checkout. So please make sure you use that code. Once again, it's NRWOB10 for your 10% off at checkout. Shout out to Dubby for being a loyal supporter and sponsor of this show and all the shows here on the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue Network. And also thanks to the guys at the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast for hooking you and me up with 10% off.
All right. I like every week, I know I say it, but dang, I'm winded.
I swear, that's part of the show now. It's going to be on a shirt one day, I swear to God.
Right? And one thing that we did miss is what's happening, Broncos country?
Yeah, we did miss the what's happening. But then again, you literally came on during the intro, so I'm telling you, it was like a photo. I was about to call you because I wasn't sure if you got my text message. And I thought you were already in here because I was running a little late myself. I came in like maybe 10 minutes before.
Okay.
We went live. So, and that's usually when I do my mic check, my video check.
Oh, yeah.
And all that razzmatazz. But ladies and gentlemen, we are so happy that you can join us here tonight because we are going to talk about the draft, which is, like I said at the beginning of the show, which is something that everybody already in Broncos country has started talking about, and it has only picked up steam the last couple of weeks. We are just a few short hours away, literally less than 24 hours now from the official start of the NFL draft. Now, I will be honest with you guys, I'm not 100% familiar with college football. Every year I try to watch it, I try to pay attention, but there's just so many teams and so many players, and just when I think I get a grasp of the concept, it just escapes me. So I promise you folks that I'm really trying every year. I'm trying to get a better understanding of how college football works and who the teams are and who's good and who's bad, instead of always relying on the analysts every single year, like most of us do for the first 2 rounds. Because then after the first 2 rounds, Libre, it's like you really need to know your stuff, because you're really starting to dive into uncharted territory, and you're almost in that area where it's almost like close to undrafted or players you've never even heard about, maybe, unless you're really into college football. And and you're not just somebody reading it off the card at the NFL stage. So Libre and I are going to try to get into talk about as much as we can about the draft. If you hear more from Libre than me, I'm just letting you know that's why, because I think Libre knows more about college football and all that stuff than I do. So I am going to entrust Libre with who he believes the Broncos are going to pick at 20.
Honestly, I don't know nothing about college football.
Yeah, los chingamos.
Really, when it comes down to it, I really do a lot of studying here at the during the 2 weeks, 3 weeks leading up to the draft itself. I started looking into it a little bit more. And one person that really does know a lot, and I actually we talk about it a lot during these last couple of weeks here, is with my son. He's really gets into it really good, and what's nice and what I love about this is that over the last year or so, he's now put himself more into understanding football itself, understanding who's coming in, who's coming out, or whatever. And I love that aspect of that that I have with him, because I didn't have that before, because he was always a huge basketball guy. But him just picking up the game, him understanding coverages now, understanding all that. I just love talking football with him now. And before, I would always have to find, because I have 2 tickets to the season tickets for the year. And he would want to go to a game here or there. He'd pick and choose 1 or 2 games. But now he's like, I'm all in. I want to go and I want to see all the games. So I'm super excited for that. We have a lot of scenarios that we're going to talk about here today. I've heard so many different options that's been going on, especially some of the research I've been doing with the draft. So, I'm excited to talk about it. I want to hear some opinions. I want to hear people talk about it as well, see what people are thinking as well. What are other people are talking about it as well with this draft, where we're going to be at. Whatever right now, just we'll get into it. But I feel like what we're going to be doing here today is being able to discuss all these options that we currently have, which, the Broncos, are they truly the only team that has called in other teams to move up in the draft? Is that really the case? I have heard other teams want to drop out of the top 5. So it's crazy to hear what we want to start off with. With you, Adon, just with your brief knowledge of what you have, who are you thinking that the Broncos, or what position? Let's go with that. What position do you think the Broncos are going to go with first?
You know what? I just want to say before I start yammering off that my nephew is literally in the same position as your son. Same thing. He still likes basketball, but initially when he started getting into sports, basketball was all he thought about. And the last year, or maybe a little bit more, he started getting into football. I think it started when we went to Denver last year. Probably even, I don't know if it was the spark, but it was something in him that ignited his passion for football. So now he knows about plays and the players and the teams, and he's just soaked all that stuff up, and I'm really proud of him for being able to sit and have a conversation with him about NFL football and about players, and he knows what I'm talking about. So that makes me a proud uncle. But then when we start talking about the fact that he's a Chiefs fan, that's when it kind of the glass breaks, You're muted, Libre.
Okay, so that's one thing that I want to know is you guys are there in Chicago. Why is he a Chiefs fan? Is it only because that's what he saw with the Chiefs winning? Is that
I
part of that winning culture, and he just jumped on that bandwagon?
I think so. I think he went through the same thing I went when in '98, except he didn't
Okay.
see the Chiefs on a Simpsons episode. I think he just happened to watch the Super Bowl and he saw Patrick Mahomes
Okay.
and fell in love with the franchise. So
You know what? And sometimes that happens, and I get that. Like once you understand the sport and you see a team and they're winning, I get it that you want to jump on that bandwagon. I hope that when they start losing, which is going to start this upcoming season, where they're not going to be in the dominance
mhm.
that they have been over the last 6 7 years, that he will still be a fan of theirs. If not, he can come over and jump on the bandwagon with the Broncos so that you'll be their proud uncle right there. Get him in the orange and blue,
Welcome in with open arms, brother. Get rid of
Exactly.
all that red crap. But we got somebody already in the chat here. Dreamweaver saying, "What up, players?"
What's happening, Dreamweaver? Let's
My
go.
high salute to you, Jay.
Let's
Thank you so
go.
much for joining us and being a loyal supporter of the show. And he says, "Who's your best guest in the second round?"
Wow. Already throwing out for the second round itself, huh?
Yeah, that's
Uh, you
that's a
know,
biggie. That's a lot of pressure you're putting on us, Jay. And we're two rookies over here. Now, if you guys caught the Nothing Rhymes with show last night with Johnny and Dreamweaver himself, like they went into detail and they were talking about players I've never even freaking heard of. So I suggest you guys go back and give that a watch, and hit them up on the actual video or on their socials if you have any follow-up questions. But Johnny and Jay are definitely on the up and up. And just as a reminder, we will be live tomorrow for the draft. I won't be there, unfortunately, because I'm working. But the guys on the Nothing Rhymes with and maybe the MHRT guys might make a visit. I'm not 100% sure. But we on the network will be streaming the draft. So please make sure you're here to join us and get all the live reactions from all the guys that are going to be live as the picks go down.
so like going back to Dreamweaver's question for the second round, honestly, it's really going to be dependent on who we pick on the first round, like what position we go for. If we're going to go for a running back, I say if we go for a running back, they're at number 20. If we keep number 20 itself, I think what we'll end up doing there at pick number 51 would be getting a wide receiver. I feel like if we can get a running back, wide receiver in the first two rounds itself, I think right there that's going to solidify this offense, especially a great wide receiver at that point. This is going to be the weapons that Bo Nix is going to need to propel him to be that great quarterback, that football manager on the field. That how they call the quarterback the manager on the field. He's going to be able to manage that, and because of that running back position that we need so desperately, that who's going to be an every down back itself, if we can have that guy that's there, Bo Nix's job is going to be so much easier. So that play action itself in general is going to be there, and it's gonna work for in his favor for this upcoming season. So I'm super excited for that.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, my friend. But I just want to make another sidebar to my sidebar from my sidebar. I found my Let's Ride cup because it was in my thing, and I'm going to be drinking from it. And I don't care that people don't say Let's Ride anymore. I still say it. I don't give a damn. A couple years ago, it was the hottest thing since sliced bread. And just because Russell Wilson is no longer a Bronco doesn't mean that we can't say it anymore. So,
it's funny that you say that. Like I was just right before I was getting ready for the show, and I have because I collect all the game day towels that they give out at the stadium, and I ended up finding
the Let's Ride.
the Let's Ride.
I think I have that. It's in one of my storages. But my boss was at that game because Derek Stingley, my boss, went to school with his dad. So
Okay.
he was at the game. It was the day it was the year he got drafted into the NFL by the Texans. So I know I have that somewhere. So hey, we're game day towel brothers.
There we go.
But ladies and gentlemen, I just want to share with you some of the top picks from the NFL draft in case you happen to be one of the guys like us that aren't exactly 100% familiar with what's going on with what's going on in the draft. So basically, this gentleman whose name is Daniel Jeremiah has I don't know if this is his rating, but probably his personal rating. He's got as the first possible pick ranked 1 Travis Hunter. So Travis Hunter is a hybrid version of a wide receiver / cornerback who supposedly wants to break the mold and be the one player who can play both positions. Now,
he's trying to be like Dion. That's really what it's coming down to. But I feel like what he can do is he can actually do it better than what Dion did it when he did it in the late 80s, early 90s itself. So, and again, he's going to be that type of player that he's already saying that he wants to play both. He doesn't want to do just the one side. At first he's going to be limited to whatever. He's going to have to pick one side of the ball where he's going to be on the field all the time, and then maybe half the time on the other side. So, and I feel like if a team that's going to take him, which I think it might be the number 2 pick, which is the Browns, they're going to want to use him as a wide receiver and then using him as a cornerback as a secondary option.
My only issue with this is if you do put Travis Hunter, let's say hypothetically speaking, you put him on the offense as a wide receiver, and then on the next drive, like when the defense goes out, he's a cornerback. You run that risk where his chance of getting injured is high, because he's not on the bench getting a break. Even if he comes in for just a play, the risk of injury is really high. So I don't know. I'm not saying Travis Hunter isn't talented. I just don't know if the risk is lower or worth the reward. You know what I'm saying? Because just one injury from him, and if it's depending on the severity of it, it could really derail a whole bunch of things. But
well, just like 2 years ago when they were playing the CSU game, 2 years ago, he got injured in that game, and he got injured pretty well from a block. I think it was a pick, and somebody went out there, and just like he did get a cheap shot on him. It was a blindside block that he received, and he was out like 5 or 6 games or something like that, which did hinder the CU that year too. So it's, again, I also look at it this way. You can't go into a game or into a play thinking you're going to get injured, because what's going to happen? You're going to get injured no matter what. You always have to, like, that mentality that they always say is always play as this play is your last play ever. No matter what, go 110%. But you can't go into a game or a play or series that, what if I get injured? Because what's the first thing that's going to happen? You're going to get injured because you're thinking about that too much.
Agreed. And unfortunately, I doubt the Broncos get Travis Hunter.
No.
But we just wanted to talk about it.
Before we go on, this is one of the scenarios that I have heard. So of course, I feel like who's going number 1 is going to be Cam Ward. He's going to number 1 for the Tennessee. So right now, the Cleveland Browns have the number 2 spot, and Cleveland has also been one of the teams that they've said that they've been contacted about trading back into the draft. So with Adam Schefter just reporting the other day that there's only been one team that has been reaching out to teams about moving up, that they're talking right now. Like, what do we have to give up to get to that number 2 spot? To get Travis Hunter? Because you've heard it. Travis Hunter said it all last year. He wants to stay here in Denver. He wants to play for the Denver Broncos. You want a player that wants to be here with you, and he said it already. So what is it going to really take for the Denver Broncos to go in there and make that happen? Is it going to be too rich for their blood to do that? Which I feel like it might be too rich, and that's just like a godsend if we can get that to happen. Because look at that. If you can get Travis Hunter right there on the other side of Cortland Sutton, and then Mims on the split, and then if you have PS2 on one side and Travis Hunter on the other side, on the defensive side, this would be a nasty team to play with.
Well, you said the magic word. It's literally going to take an act of God
to
get it to happen. But moving on here, Libre, we have Abdul Carter, who's an edge rusher from Penn State, and Ashton Gianti. Genti?
Genty. Yep.
Genti. Also from not also, but all from Boise State, who's a running back. Now, the whole to me, everything that they've been talking about Ashton going to the Bears because it's the team he's linked the most likely to go to. It's been giving me like Tariq Cohen vibes because just for the simple fact that Ashton and Tariq have at least when Tariq was a rookie, they have a lot of similarities. They're both small running backs. They're both speedy as hell. I know Tariq went viral because he was able to do a backflip and catch I think a football or two footballs midair or something like that. And unfortunately, he just flamed out in Chicago. He did not live up to the hype, and I don't even think he's on a team currently. I think he's dealing with an injury last I heard. So Ashton going to the Bears, I wouldn't say wouldn't be bad, but the only thing that I have against it is that the fact that the Bears are still trying to figure out their offensive line issue. They have a really bad offensive line problem. Caleb Williams was the most sacked quarterback last year, and I think that they have to fix their offensive line first and then kind of get an idea to figure out, are they going to be a running team with Caleb, or are they going to be a running team with Ashton? Kind of sort of like what the Ravens have, except the Ravens are unpredictable. You don't know if it's going to be a run with Lamar or a run with Derrick Henry. So, but for me, Ashton would be the most safer pick for Chicago. And there've been a lot of talks as well about Ashton possibly coming to the Broncos. I don't think Ashton falls all the way down to 20. If he does fall past the 10, then I think the Broncos could probably pull the trigger, try to find a way to jump up to get Ashton if that's who they want to get, and see if what they have to give up to move up is worth the risk. But I mean, I wouldn't hate it. And for Abdul Carter, unfortunately, I don't know anything about Abdul, to be honest with you. So, but he's rated the second best, according to this article, second best edge rusher going into the draft.
Well, he's the number one edge rusher, number two
edge
overall.
Rusher. Sorry.
But honestly, like what I feel like with Genty, like he's not going to reach number 10. There's no way he's going to drop that far. There's something has to happen for him to drop that far, I think, for Chicago to pick him up at 10. I really think that it's going to be the Raiders. I feel like the Raiders are going to be the ones that are going to get him. As much as I hate to say that, but they're the number 6. They're right now in the number 6 spot itself. So that's what they need. Like I'm just looking at, because I put some things together here for number 6. Raiders, their number 1 need: running back, wide receiver, cornerback, O-line, and then linebacker. And if he's available right there at 6, and he reminds Pete Carroll as beast mode, as Marshawn Lynch, like that's how he feels. Like I feel like he's going to talk about with Genty, because he's that type of player that you cannot pass him up. And I think that Pete Carroll's going to say, let's pull it. Let's get him right there at number 6. You have to going to be a team's going to have to jump in front of him, like Jacksonville. Like we need to, if we're going to go up there, we're going to may have to go up to maybe 5 to get Genty.
I don't see the Raiders taking Genty just for the simple fact that their biggest need is a quarterback. They have their quarterback. They have Geno Smith. Yeah, but Geno Smith is not the future, bro. Geno Smith is just there because Pete Carroll's there.
Exactly, but he got him there, and they extended him though. And that's the thing, is they're not going to pick right now. They're going to wait until next year to get their quarterback, because they've already extended Geno. They're not going to get him now. They're going to want to get somebody that's going to be able to help them right now, and Genty's going to be that player to help Geno Smith itself.
I mean, I hopefully that doesn't happen, because they had a running back and they let him walk. Josh Jacobs was doing great work in
But
Las
again,
Vegas.
that's Antonio Pierce. That's the previous regime
and they
that
didn't
was
want
there.
to pay him, and they let him walk, and he basically steamrolled in Green Bay, and the running back room in Las Vegas just basically flamed out because it wasn't very good. So hopefully, again, there's a reason why Geno Smith didn't stay in Seattle, especially after that magical season about he never wrote back and all that crap. Okay. So if Seattle actually believed that, he'd still be a Seahawk, probably for the remainder of his career. So him coming to Las Vegas, it doesn't scare our defense one damn bit. I know all the boys are and they can't wait to get the Geno because they owe Geno, all right, 2 ass whoopings. Even if he's playing for a different team, it doesn't really matter. The conversation is still the same. But hopefully, I'm right. But hopefully Ashton doesn't go to the Raiders. I'd rather go to another team that's not the Raiders, the Chargers, or especially the Chiefs. Moving on down, we got Mason Graham and Jalen Walker. Libre, do you know anything about these 2 young men?
I do not know anything about these guys. I know, because I put together this whole list of stuff.
Yeah, you can read off your list if you want.
Let me just see. Yeah, because I have and I'm getting all this. The information that I got is from PFF.com and so forth. And who are they, real quick? Mason Graham. Yeah. See, I don't know these guys generally, and it's going to be more for me who are the bigger names itself. Stuff that I've been reading, with what the Broncos have been looking into. But with some of these guys, I don't know how they are. But Mason Graham, Michigan guy, just won a championship the year before with Harbaugh. So he's going to be good. I just hope that whoever gets him, that's going to be their need.
We can move on to tight end here because the Broncos could use another tight end.
Agreed,
if they chose to. Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. Me and you have talked about Loveland before on the show. So
I've talked about both of these guys because these are some of the guys that I've already said that we could possibly get at number 20. That's one of my picks. Colston Loveland, I think it was, or Tyler Warren, I think was the one that I said that we're gonna pick up as opposed to the free agency. I said we're gonna go for the tight end before Evan Ingram signed. But I feel like we still need a tight end as well because Ingram is only going to be here for about 2 years. So at least if we can get him. One of these guys, if we happen to get one of these guys at the number 20 spot, it's going to be a good thing for the Broncos itself because then he can at least sit 1 year behind Evan Ingram, get him in there, get a little playing time, and then in that second year, let him go out there and play a little bit more. And then at the end, we've used Ingram of what we wanted to use him as the joker player, showing the outlet that Bo Nix needs for this team itself. And then if one of these guys are there and we pick them up, they're just reading off of what Evan Ingram has been doing so far. And then that's going to be the next player that's going to be helping Bo Nix and helping us propel us deep into the playoff run and into the championship.
Only just for the simple fact that you've talked about Loveland so much and some of the guys in our group chat, in our Broncos group chat, have talked about him so much. I'm kind of high on him. Although I wouldn't be upset if they went Tyler Warren. But I think that either one of these picks for the Broncos at 20 would definitely be good. I'm trying to remember. Was Noah Fant a second? Yeah, he was a second round pick, right? When they picked him before Drew Lock a couple years ago. I believe so.
I think so, yeah.
So that was the last time the Broncos spent, at least I call it a high-end pick on a tight end, which was Noah Fant. And the fact that John Elway was able to get, Drew Lock and Noah Fant, 2 players that already.
It was late, I think it was because they were back-to-back.
Yeah, they were back-to-back.
Noah Fant and then, then Drew Lock.
Yeah. So that was the last time the Broncos had a high-end draft pick for a tight end. And I'm pretty sure it was 2018 because that was the same year that they signed Flacco for some damn reason. But
it was just a veteran quarterback that we needed with the carousel of quarterbacks that we had.
Yeah, just another horsey on the merry-go-round that was the Broncos quarterback carousel. But I would definitely, I'm a little bit used to Loveland just for now, just for the simple fact that he's the guy that can definitely help propel this offense. Although not taking anything away from Tyler Warren, if the Broncos chose Tyler Warren, definitely a good come up. But I wouldn't be surprised if both of these players were not on the board when the Broncos are on the clock. And if the Broncos don't move up to get either one of these, and I'm talking about like more than one or two spots, but I'm not saying they're not good, but if the Broncos do move up to get a player higher than like 2-3 spots, it definitely has to be somebody that they believe will be worth the risk and the sacrifice that they have to give up, which is probably a player or some draft picks. The higher they go up, the richer the deal has to be.
Oh, of course.
For the team to say, yeah, we'll do it. Next, we have Cam Ward, who's slated to be the first quarterback or predicted to be the first quarterback that's going to be off the board, and Armand Membu. Tennessee is more than likely looking to be the team that's going to pick up Cam Ward, from what I've seen.
Yep.
And some of the predictions. I think Tennessee has a lot of problems, and that maybe not even Cam Ward himself can probably fix. I'll still die on the hill where I say they should have kept Mike Vrabel. Like, Brian Callahan as a head coach has not been doing very well. And granted, he's had Will Levis, and they had to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins, or they traded DeAndre Hopkins, and they really didn't have anybody, to be honest with you, on that offense. So having him start from scratch, my only concern is that if Cam Ward does go to Tennessee, will he be able to, elevate that franchise and bring it out of the rut that it's in and say, hey, we can do this? Can they go toe to toe with the other teams in their division and possibly win their division and make another run at a postseason next year?
This first year for Cam Ward there in Tennessee, if he is selected number 1 overall, he's not going to be there right away. It's going to be several years. He's going to have a struggle season his rookie year. Because they're not there. It's not like they're Washington, how Washington was able to turn everything over for Jaden Daniels. And they still need an offensive line as well. And that's one thing is, if you don't have an offensive line to help protect him, he's going to be scrambling. He's, and at that point, like how you say too, like the potential of getting hurt, because they don't have that protection for him, and he's going to be running for his life. Hopefully that they can solve that with the draft here and get that done. But again, it's going to be, let's see what happens on tomorrow night.
Yeah, I agree. Will Campbell here, who's predicted to go another possible pickup for the Bears to help reinforce their offensive line. I could definitely see it. Could a Will Campbell, if he fell to the Broncos at 20, be a good fit or be an improvement to our offensive line, Libre?
As much as I think we do need to draft a lineman this draft, but not at 20. We need something better. Our line right now for the run offense itself is pretty good. It's just a matter of, we have what we need right now for the offensive line. It's something that we can pick up in the later rounds to help get depth for the Broncos itself. I don't see at number 20. I feel like he's going to go before 20 anyway, because he is a great offensive lineman there.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think our patience is starting to wear thin with McGlinchey. And we really don't have a choice, because the Broncos paid him a crap ton of money to protect the right. What is that Bowles blind side, or is it the other side?
Garrett Bowles is the blind side.
Garrett Bowles, thank you.
Yeah.
So, if they were in a hypothetical sense, to get Will Campbell, I wouldn't be angry at it because he'd basically just be there to kind of learn and get situated, because then that would basically be spell the end for McGlinchey once his contract is up. But on the other hand, I do agree with you. If the Broncos do get a high offensive lineman pick, it should be a center, because I believe the center is probably the kind of like the weak chain in that offensive line.
Agreed.
McGlinchey has his moments, but he's not always inconsistent. He's just people just have a problem with him because the Broncos paid him a whole lot of money and he hasn't been playing like the amount of money he's being paid to play. So the Niners, they disguised a lot of McGlinchey's inconsistencies when he was a 49er a couple of years ago. But again, this could be the pick for the Bears if they want to keep rebuilding that offensive line and they don't get Ashton.
Yeah.
Because I have seen Will Campbell's name being linked to Chicago, and it wouldn't be a bad pick, maybe that high up, but it would be a big gamble. But then again, the Bears have to do a lot of work to try to protect Caleb Williams and keep him from being the most sacked quarterback 2 years in a row.
But I feel I feel with Campbell, like I think that is going to be a good fit for Chicago right now if they're going to do that. And yes, because you saw this during this last year that he did not have that line that helped him out. He was scrambling a lot of the time. And I feel like if Chicago really needs to protect what they got last year with Williams, they need to get a lineman. And I feel like Campbell is going to be that type of guy for them if he does fall to number 10 to them.
Correct. I did want to talk about
Omarion Hampton.
Omarion Hampton, because he has been linked to the Broncos because he is most likely slated to fall to the mid, actually, because mid, would you say 20 is mid or low?
No, that's like the back end. You have to think because there's 32 teams, so it's the beginning of the third of all the teams.
Right. So I unfortunately do not know. I know little to what I haven't read about Hampton, only because he's been rumored to be the possible 20th selection for the Broncos. I wish I could sit here and tell you guys that the shoes to fill left by Javonte Williams were big, but unfortunately I can't.
No, you can't. And that's the thing that's so hard. We wanted him to be so good here, especially because what we saw before he tore his ACL. But with some of these trade scenarios that I have seen here, I've seen this one mock draft that came out that had the Broncos like trading back like 3 different times in the first round, like starting at 20 and then going to 22 and then going to 26 and then going to 32. And then Omarion Hampton was already taken, I think, at the 20th spot by whoever traded up to that spot. But because of all these trades and all these other picks that we got for this draft itself, then they have number 32. And then they take Travion Henderson, who will be coming up, that we'll be talking about here as well soon, who has been another player that's been linked to the Broncos as well. And I think Hampton just said the other day, like, yeah, he's been in talks with the Broncos front office as well. So and that's also another good thing as well, is like, if the Broncos are truly, say that they have this player in mind, if it is Omarion Hampton or if it is Genty, like what are they willing to give up to get to that spot wherever they can fill it to get him? I feel like if they go up for Hampton, like it's because they know that there's another team that's wanting to take him, and they're like, you know what, let's just secure our guy. This is who we want. This is the number 1 guy on our board, and let's go ahead and get him. And that might be a potential where we move up and go in there and get him. It might be like number, up to I think 11, 12, somewhere around there. Like it's still going to be in the early teens and or whatnot. So if we can go out there and do that, I feel like the Broncos might be working on something with that to get him.
Yeah, I feel like Hampton's going to be the safety pick if when the Broncos are up to pick, if they're at 20, let's say they don't move,
Yeah.
and there's nobody else on their board that's best available, I feel like Hampton's just going to be like, you know what, we need a running back anyway, and he's the best option left, especially with Ashton already been gone off the board. So if that's the way that they want to go, then I wish Hampton the best going forward as a Denver Bronco, and I wouldn't be mad at the pick. Matthew Golden, wide receiver. Nick Emmenworl, safety from South Carolina. Will Johnson.
I don't know much.
Yeah, Tyler Booker, inside offensive lineman. Quarterback is Will Johnson. Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver from Ohio State. Tatalroa McMillan, wide receiver. Shadur Sanders.
So this has been a hot topic, especially at work, because, I'm here in Denver and I have a lot of my coworkers are CU fans and so forth. For me personally, and teams, like, I think people have already put him at number 3, going number 3 overall to the Giants, if the Giants stay at that position itself. If that's the case, like, who was it? Somebody said, like, they had a interview with him recently and said that he was the worst interview that they've ever had with a player ever. I can't remember who the coach was or whatever, but that's what he said. He was the worst interview that they've ever had. But then there was another article that I read, and they were interviewing the coaches from the teams that he just played this last year. The Nebraska coach comes out and said, you know what, Shador is going to be a great fit and a great personality that needs to be happen there for the Giants at number 3. So the Giants should take him there at number 3. I feel like, me personally, I feel that Shador Sanders is going to be a bust in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be able to transition into the NFL game because he was blanketed by his daddy. Like, that's what I mean. Like, he had his daddy to protect him the whole time while he was in college there at Jackson State, and then when they moved over to CU. So I feel like even if you look at the last year, he was still running away. Like, yeah, he has a good arm, but if he can get, like, if somebody can coach him, I think better, it would be good for him. But I feel like he's not going to transition well into the NFL itself.
I don't think Shador goes to the Giants, just for the simple fact that the Giants already signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston.
Well, again, those are 1-year deals.
I know they're 1-year deals, but the Giants right now have the exact same problem that the Steelers had last year. The exact same. Mm-hmm. They signed 2 former starting quarterbacks, and now they created a problem where they don't know which one to start. So if the Giants do get Shador, and Shador has to sit behind both of them, and even if he's the second behind Russell Wilson, because I don't think they'll bench Wilson. There's no point in him signing him 1 year when they got him for free. Okay. And I'm saying that because you guys have heard me say it before on the show. Russell Wilson is definitely, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in the same situation as Aaron Rodgers is right now, where nobody wants him because nobody wants to pay an outrageous amount of effing money to bring him in. And that's that the Jets are still on the hook for the Aaron Rodgers contract, mind you. So there would still have to be some contract negotiations where there's going to be one team, or there would be one team that still has to eat a part of that contract to get Aaron Rodgers' services. So to me, I think that the team that's probably going to pick up Shador is probably going to be Pittsburgh. My gut feeling is because the Steelers need a quarterback. They don't have anybody to throw the ball with them. The Saints are probably the second one, just for the simple fact that because it's already been rumored that Derek Carr, his injury is a lot more severe that they've been letting on, and he could miss the remaining of the season.
Yeah, which is still scary for them itself. Yeah.
Yeah, the start of the season, not the remaining. The start of the football season. So if the Saints get desperate enough, I don't know what they would, they're already in cap hell, so them giving up players would probably be a godsend to them. you know.
Oh yeah.
So I think he should go to a team that can actually use him as a starter, not to a team where he's going to go and try to fight for a quarterback competition, kind of like what we did with Bo Nix last year. Bo Nix, that shouldn't have been a question. That shouldn't have been a competition, and none of that. It should have been Bo Nix is the guy. That's why we drafted him. End of story.
Oh yeah.
And that was a close one, because if they would have started Zach Wilson or what's his name? I can't even tell you the backup quarterback's name for the Broncos.
Stidham.
Thank you, Jared Stidham. If they would have started either one of those guys, it would have been hell on earth. Okay. But obviously the Broncos are not going to pursue Shedeur. There's no reason for them to do so. But I agree with you in the aspect that I do believe that he was protected a lot by his father and his legacy. But whoever picks up Sanders or Shedeur, all that stuff that he went through with CU and Jackson State and all that is left at the door, because he's no longer going to be, coached by his dad and protected by his dad. He's going to be at the mercy of the team that picks him, and it'll be up to him to hone and improve his skills if he wants to make it in the NFL.
Oh, of course,
so,
yeah.
Good luck to him, but I've heard the same things you said from people around me and people on TV that said that they believe that Shedeur is not going to make it in the NFL, because for the same reason that they believe he got to the draft a different way than most other players have done, So what's going to happen is when his dad is not there no longer to protect him and guide him and do all that stuff, that's when whoever the team is going to see that side of Shedeur that nobody saw when he was at CU, because, he's kind of being protected from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I don't feel like he's going to do anything in the league. He's going to be in there maybe 3 years, and then people are going to see who he truly is, and then he'll be out.
So I guess as we're getting ready to almost head into the overtime part of the show, Libre, if the Broncos, let's have three hypotheticals. One, if the Broncos move up. One, if the Broncos stay at 20, or if they trade back. If the Broncos move up to get a high-skilled player, who do you believe the Broncos will target?
I think that if we're going to be moving up, we're moving up to get Genty.
Stole my pick, man.
Hey, you should have went first.
But yeah, I agree.
You can still say Genty as well, but that just means that we're on the same page, because we have to already look at Genty. It's already been said. It's been proven what he has done during this last year. He was a finalist for the Heisman Trophy itself. That he is one of those generational players that you have to go out there and get. And if the team is going to make that type of moves, you're gonna be willing to do whatever you need to whatever cost that it's going to happen. You're going to go after him, and you're going to make sure that you get him at the price that you want him at as well. But I feel if we move up, that's who we're going to get.
What if the Broncos stay put?
Stay put. That means that Genty's already off the board, because he's no way he's going to be there. And I feel like Omarion Hampton was going to be our guy at number 20.
I'm going to say Loveland.
Loveland?
I think Loveland is the pick. Just either him or Warren. Whichever one of those two guys is at 20, if Ashton's gone, then definitely. Nothing against Hampton. I'm pretty sure he's a good running back. But I feel like he's the choice for the Broncos if either one of those tight ends and Ashton isn't there. So,
and then I have a friend of mine that just on TikTok, he was just saying earlier, he goes that this year running back is it's a deep running back class itself. Mm-hmm. But part of that as well, yes, it is. It's a deep running back class, but you have these 2-3 players that are just so high up on the board, and then it's everyone else. That even if we don't get a running back here in the first 2 rounds, we're still going to get if we do get a running back later on, we're still going to get a great quarterback later. A running back later on in the draft itself because of how deep it is. And yes, it's not that elite one that you want, but there's still some guys that are going to be out there and available for us to get there, like Travion Henderson. Like he's another guy that I was going to be bringing up here. That if we happen to go and say go back out of the first round, or if we go in the later rounds to like the furthest at 32, like Trayvon Henderson, that's who I think that will end up happening. Is if we go and trade back in the draft, that's who I think that we will look at if he's available still. If not, hoping for me, I would say either one of the tight ends, hoping they drop that far back.
If the Broncos do trade back and they're able to get somewhere close to like early second round, super late first round, maybe not ahead of the Chiefs. Well, no, they'd be ahead of the Eagles because the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So
Well, yeah, because the Eagles would be 32. So
32.
that's like one of the trade scenarios that I saw when the Broncos were trading back, that they went back to number 32, where they were then at that point with the 32 pick, they did get Travion Henderson.
Oh, okay. I guess 32. You might as well be talking about what Dreamweaver said. What he says, your best guess in the second round. If for me, if Hampton is still on the board for the second round and nobody's picked him up in the first, especially if the Broncos went Loveland, for example, then I believe that Hampton would be the Broncos' second round pick. And to me, I would feel a whole lot better for that because then there's a safety that goes with Hampton. Because then, see, the thing that most people don't understand, and I had the conversation with a lot of people today, is that it's because somebody asked me, like, why is the first round pick so important? Because this was somebody who doesn't know anything about football, obviously. And I said, because you're literally choosing one piece where a player can make your team or it can break your team. Okay.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
it is a really big risk. There's people invested in this. There's the team that's investing money into it. Even if it is a rookie deal, you're still investing money into it. It's not millions of dollars because obviously you're on a rookie deal. But the fact that you took a chance on this one player, and I think the thing that eats up a lot of teams, especially, is if you ever have time, go back and watch like the what's that video called that I seen? Basically, it was a guy who ranked all like the top contenders and the busts. And when you see the list of who was picked before and after that bust, and you have to be knowing that team was just so close from having a big time quality player, and they missed it by one pick. So.
But like you with the draft, no matter what it is, it's always a gamble.
Yeah, it's a gamble.
It's always a gamble because you never know what's going to happen. Because look at this, you've had Jamarcus Russell, one of the top rated quarterbacks coming out of the league. The Raiders end up picking him, and look what he did to them. And that was actually one of the last years that they had before they have these rookie deals that they have now. He like basically robbed the Raiders, like because of what he came into, the huge signing contract that he had. That was like the last year because they're like, you know what? We can't have this anymore with these guys coming through. So, but then you have Tom Brady, and now you have Mr. Irrelevant, or he was picked 199. But then you have Mr. Irrelevant from several years ago, Brock Purdy. Like you never know what you're going to be getting with some of these guys. It's always going to be a gamble. You're just hoping that the guy that you're picking is going to be the best fit for your offense or defense or whatever the case, or special teams, whatever you pick him at. You're hoping that that's what he's able to do, come in here and produce. Every team has their bad picks. Every team has their good picks. So, and again, it's a roll of the dice. You never know what's going to happen. But again, you just hope that the guy that you're picking, the reason why you're picking him is that's the hopes that he's going to be that star player, that next star player for your team that's going to help you win that championship.
Agreed, my friend. And I just hope that the Broncos get it right, because there are 32 other teams tomorrow night and going into the weekend that are all going to be saying the same thing after the selection was made, that they hope that they get it right.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of regulation, which means it is now time for Libre and I's favorite segment. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some overtime. Boy, I was waiting for this segment today, Libre.
Uh-oh.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Let me guess.
you can't
You
see me.
can't
That's right,
see me.
boy. John Cena, 17-time world champion, man.
Heck yeah.
Did we or did we not call it last week,
We
Libre?
did
Wasn't that
call that.
amazing?
That you know, like just knowing, like, when you talk about WWE and how everything is, they quote it fake or whatever. No, the wrestling's real. Like, everything's real out there. The injuries that they have, like, they still have to physically go out there and do all the moves. Yeah, it might be scripted and so forth, but everything's real. But again, like, just going back, and and I was actually looking back the last several weeks with it as well. It's like, you could see it already that it was scripted, that he was going to win it. Like, I think it was a disappointment, I feel, for me, that the way that it happened, like, it just, like, all of a sudden just ended. Like, me and my son too, we were talking about, like, oh, this is going to be like a 45 minute match. It's going to be like that. And then it was like over in like 25 minutes. And we're like, wait, there's still like 20 minutes or so before 9 p.m. Mountain Time. I was like, how did it just end like so quick? And but overall, like, we knew it was gonna happen. Like, and what's nice is that he now is the sole person, number one, to hold the number of championship belts. So that's one thing, is that I like that he's the GOAT. This is his final year. Why not do that? He's been in the industry for over 20 years, and the dedication that he's had for the sport itself is unparalleled. Like, yeah, there's been like other guys as well, but he's been one of those guys that has always been that baby face throughout most of his career. And then just to see him do it this way, it's like kind of bittersweet, because you want to still have him be that baby face instead of the heel. But you know what? I don't care. He has the record. You're gonna, like they were saying too, like Pat McAfee was saying, you're not gonna see anybody else try to even come close to this record. It's gonna be very hard for someone to do that.
You know, but yeah, shout out to our boy John Cena. Love you, man. Hopefully this title reign goes all the way into next year's WrestleMania, longer than your retirement tour says so, because I feel like we're in for an amazing ride. Yeah, never give up. Exactly. But actually, Libre, today kind of wanted to change course and talk about. So my nephew is about to be he's about to go into high school. So as you guys heard me say at the beginning of the show, my nephew has been he's been getting into football. So on weekends he plays for his eighth grade like flag football team. You know, they play against other schools, and I went to go see him play. So like the very first game, my nephew was the snapper. So, you know, they don't do the snap from like underneath your legs. It's just like you kind of like lean over and you just throw the ball up in the air to the quarterback. And because my nephew made like kind of a mistake where he kind of hiked the ball, but it kind of went like in an arc instead of going straight to the QB, you know.
Yeah.
So when he came to the sidelines after the drive, the coach kind of said something to him, you know, like, hey, Vince, you have to, you know, don't hike don't snap the ball so high. I was like, yeah, man. I'm like, yeah, man, don't worry about it. You'll get it in the next drive. He didn't come back in for the rest of the game.
What?
Yeah, he sat out the entire time. And I was just like I was upset, you know, as an uncle. And I was like, I wanted to go say something over to the coach, but my nephew was like, hey, man, look, we lost. So, you know, maybe he didn't need me out there. I'm like, well, yeah, but I feel like he punished you because you made a mistake. And it wasn't like it was a mistake that cost you guys the game. It was the first quarter. So It was
Yeah.
like that. I felt like a parent for a moment, and I wanted to go and kind of strangle that coach's um
So how was the
neck.
other center doing? Like you were there, like did the center like have did
It
you do
was
better
just
or was the
pretty
same?
much it was pretty much the same, to be honest with you. It was just a regular just snap, and some of them were a little rainbowy, but it wasn't like he threw it straight up in the air, you know.
Yeah.
And um but it was kind of like, and the energy, that coach's energy reminded me of the coach of what's that idiot's name? Nathaniel Hackett. That's what he reminded me. Like there was no energy. We were seeing more energy from the opposing coach, in terms of, hey, come on guys, let's go, this formation and
Yeah,
run this
hyping them up. Yeah.
step. And my nephew's coach was just like, yeah, just do this play. Just run that. I'm like, I felt like taking the board away from him, saying, man, move.
So and this was the 8th grade coach then?
Yeah, yeah.
You know
And
what? Good thing he's moving to high school. Is he going to be playing tackle football? Has he
yeah,
showed interest of that?
he is. Yeah, he's going to be playing tackle
Okay.
uh, for uh, for one of the good schools in Chicago at that. So I'm very proud of him
Nice.
that he was able to get into that school, because I remember when I was his age and I applied, I got rejected like the next day because my grades were crap.
Hey,
They
it's
were
part of it.
terrible.
That's why they call it student athlete. Student first,
Yeah,
athlete second.
yeah. And when I went to go see him this past Sunday, it's like he heard me mentally or whatever, because now he actually used my nephew for what he's a big fan of Travis Kelce. So watching him play was kind of like watching Kelsey. You know how Kelsey kind of just goes out and then he just turns around, and he's usually like the safety, like the checkpoint
The
check down.
check down. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was basically my nephew, and sometimes he would be left alone. So he was right there. He grabbed the ball, and you keep running until somebody pulls your flag, and he even got a touchdown out of.
Nice.
So I was proud of him, and I was kind of looking at the coach. I'm like, if you use your players the way they're supposed to, especially this guy who's like the biggest guy on your fucking team, then you'll win a game. And they were up by 3 scores going into halftime, and they lost.
Jeez, that's no fun at all.
They lost,
That
bro.
has to be brutal, man.
Yeah, and I know my nephew was a little bit like winded out, and it's like I just like man, I couldn't be a head coach for a football team, Libre. That's the understanding I came to, because even though these are teenagers, young teens, like I would be yelling at them like they were NFL players, you know. So like it took everything from me to kind of not say anything. There were parents on the sidelines that were cheering their kids on, and this one kid, I know he almost he probably was kicking himself. Wide open, quarterback hits him wide open in the end zone, drops the ball.
Butterfingers. That's
Oh man.
that's one of the worst things too, especially when the kid, like I don't know, like the kid itself, but like if he's always catching the ball and there, and it's just that one time, and it's like there for the score, like then that has to be disappointing, man. That's so tough,
Well,
especially on kids that young.
the thing that was killing me was like the opposing team was killing my nephew's team because they basically ran the same play, which was just a slot zone in with their quickest guy. So he would
Oh
just
yeah.
run in wide open, catch the ball, and he just run as fast as he can before the defense get a chance to take his flag. He scored like that twice,
Oh yeah.
So it was like I'm over here yelling at him like, do you not looking at him? Like, I want to yell at him like, do you not play Madden? If they're beating you with the exact same play, adjust, you know. But
No,
then I remember
absolutely.
that they're 8th graders.
And that's the thing too, is like because like a couple years ago, I was actually coaching a 8th grade tackle football team. And just that age alone is like some of them are willing to learn, wanting to learn, do all that, and then some think that they know everything about the game already and they're too good. They don't need to practice. I go, I go, you need to go out there and practice. I've actually still talked to some of these kids itself, and I send them that video of Bo Nix when he goes out there. You may not like the boring stuff, but the boring stuff is what you get done, you know? So,
Mhm.
and in order for you to be great, you have to do these boring stuff better than anybody else. And that's like one of the best videos that anybody can see, and especially it being our quarterback makes it that much better. Like that, I love about it. And some of these kids that are here, like they all like the Broncos. So it's like being able to see our quarterback saying that is so unbelievable. Even like you can show these kids to those kids over there. Like the boring stuff needs to be done. You need to be great at the boring stuff.
Yeah. Now, I will say I am a little bit nervous because, obviously going from flag football to, pads is like night and day.
Oh, absolutely,
So
it
I'm
is.
I'm I'm prepping my nephew for when he starts high school next year. I'm like, hey, just to let you know, man, when those pads come on, this isn't like, hey, this isn't touch anymore. This isn't flag. These guys are gonna tackle you and they're gonna hit you. So,
So I know like a lot, like, especially here in Colorado, they have off-season programming that they can go into the weight room, go and do all that just to get them prepared for when the season does happen. Like I think you might need to go and check to see if possibly if they can get a coach in there to help train, maybe get him in there to start hitting like the pads and all that, just so he gets ready and gets used to the type of motion. Because yeah, you're right. Because flag football compared to tackle football is a whole different world. There's a lot of different techniques. Especially, you already know they're going to throw him on the offensive line since he's a big kid.
mhm.
Maybe the defensive line, but he needs to start working on that footwork itself, getting the ladder and doing all that. That's only going to be helping him out overall as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and I just hope that he gets accustomed to it because I never played with pads or helmet, and neither did my brother. We weren't that type of athlete, but I know that if I would have actually played, I think I could have been somebody's nightmare, man.
Oh yeah. What's crazy is like coming in when I played during high school, a senior. That was the first game of the season. The senior, it was, and this is the blind side too. The left tackle got hurt, and I was at the time I was playing the defensive tackle, and this is like for varsity. So my sophomore year for varsity, they said, "Hey, E, we need you out there right now. Let's get you. We need somebody out there. You need to be there." And because like they at the time they're teaching us both sides of the ball, but my main focus was going to be just a defensive tackle, and when the senior got hurt, I went in there and played. I played the rest of the game, and the coaches said, "You know what? You did so well. We're going to keep you in there." I think the senior was out for possibly like 2 or 3 games. So when he was healthy enough to come back, he never played another down in his high school career. And I was like, for a moment, like I felt bad for him, but I was like, you know what? I'm better. Like I'm out here doing what I need to do. And then my junior year, then I moved to the inside. I moved to the guard itself. But yeah, it was crazy just to go in there to play smash mouth football. And I have to go back and look at some of my tapes, and we ran the wishbone. So we were always a running team, no matter what. Even our quarterback was like running behind us. Like it's that the wishbone offense itself. So
Mhm.
you could see some of our tapes, and we were like already blowing off the defensive line 5, 10 yards down the field, which was crazy. But we were also the most conditioned offensive line in the league because of our offensive line coach. He was the most hard ass coach on us. Because let me tell you why. Because if we made one mistake, we're running a 40-yard dash at the next practice. So let me tell you, there was one game, I think we had like a total of like 25 to 30 mistakes. And these are just little things, it's like we'll go back, review the tapes the next day. Sometimes we'd go and review the tape right after the game. He goes, everyone needs to come in here. We need to look at this right now. And we would go and analyze that tape. And There was one time it was that many. So that next practice, we were running 40-yard dashes right after practice. So we went after practice and we went hard during practice. And then for right after practice, we were out there. Trust me, all of us were throwing up. It was brutal. But you know what? One thing that I do have to say is I have to thank him as well. It's like, look at what we were able to do when it came down to the fourth quarter. We weren't that tired as opposed to the other team. The other team was super tired, but just because we were running them down and down. And that's why we were able to push them down 10, 15 yards down the field. And it's just crazy. I have to see if I can find that tape and I'll send it over to you so you could just see us just smash mouthing these defensive lines.
And sounds interesting already. D-Rock jumping in saying, Don and Libre, D-Rock, thank you
What's
so much
happening,
for
my
being
boy
here.
D-Rock?
My high salute to you, brother. Thank you so much for being here with us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do just about it for our overtime segment today. I know you guys were expecting it to be what we had last week, but last week we ran through a whole card, and we already talked about the most important match, I believe. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to head on out of here because I don't want to keep Libre away from his dinner because no man should be held without dinner.
Right?
Yeah. So,
And with that, guys, thank you so much. Hey, let's talk about this next Wednesday when we have our future Hall of Famer that we just selected on the number one on the first round. Whoever it might be, let's celebrate. Let's talk about it. If you have any questions around that, send us a message and let us know.
actually, that reminds me, since me and you didn't get to talk before the show because we were running late, I do have my best friend is going to be on the show here with us next Wednesday.
Yeah.
It is going to be the start of our Ask a Fan segment, and he's a Bears fan. So it'll be interesting, to get his take on what the Bears did during the draft, what he thinks of the Broncos doing in the draft, and back and forth. So it's going to be a nice back and forth, going back and forth, back and forth. So I can't wait for next week to have him here on the show and just talk about football because Libre and I have been promising you guys this segment since the launch of Broncos Talk here on the Orange and Blue Network. And I'm telling you guys, we're trying as best as we can, but finding people has been a little bit difficult, especially during this off season. But it is coming, and we can't wait to share it with you guys. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get ready to head on out of here. But before we do, just a quick reminder to please subscribe and share, comment, and like here on the Orange and Blue Networks. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us know what you think, how you feel about any and all things going on right here on Broncos Talk or any of the shows that you might enjoy here on the network. Also, this is a simulcast, so please keep in mind that we're also on the MHRT network. So same thing, please subscribe, share, comment, and like on any and all of their shows. Let them know how you feel and what you think about the topics that they're talking about. For our audio listeners, please make sure you 5-star review us. Send us a screenshot to our Twitter handles. Mine is at the bottom right there. It's at a 6 for 10 Mexican. Bronco Libre is at Bronco Libre 5280. So we can thank you and shout you out in person. Also, thank you guys for continuing to listening to us after the fact. It doesn't matter that it's okay that you can't join us live and you can't see all the funny faces and the weird camera thing that Libre's camera's been doing.
Ooh, I know. It's been weird today.
Yeah, so you missed it, unfortunately. It's one thing you can't do on audio, but hey, you get to listen to us talk from beginning from start to finish. So that's a win in itself, right?
100%.
Yeah. For any business inquiries, you can email at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. And shout out to W for being sponsor of today's show. Please remember you can use the code NRWOB10 to get your 10% off at checkout. Shout out to W and the guys over at the NRWOB for the 10% off hookout or hook up. Not hook out. I don't know what the hell that meant. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to head on out of here. Also, please, a quick reminder, Viva Los Broncos will not be on the air this Friday. We are taking the day off for the draft. So please join us next Friday, May the 2nd, for the Spanish version and the catch up of the NFL draft en español. You are not going to want to miss a single second of Libre and I struggling to say people's names in English and Spanish. It's going to be fun.
I'm just going to say it in Spanglish.
And again, please make sure you're subscribed to the network so that way you get the live notification of when the guys go live tomorrow night as they go and give their live reactions to all the picks during the NFL draft, especially the one for the Denver Broncos. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot wait to see you guys next week. With that being said, he's Bronco Libre. I'm Adan Diaz. This has been Draft Talk on Broncos Talk. Ladies and gentlemen, whoever it is that is going to get to wear the lucky hat tomorrow night, you better be sure they're going to be in good hands. So,
yes, sir.
With that being said, have a good night. And as always, go Broncos!
Go Broncos, let's go!